London Calling, London Calling, London Calling, by Dante Maggio.
Hello from Jalisse
Alessandra
and Fabio.
and this is London Calling Localitour d'autore radio show.
Music, arts.
And more and more.
Now we are calling Massimo and Archie at Dante Magazine in London.
Hi guys, how are you?
Ciao Alessandra, ciao Fabio, London Calling here, and I'm here with Archie Carmichael, music industry executive, and today we are going to talk about who made it in the Eurovision Song Contest. So Archie, what do you think about of the Eurovision Song Contest, first of all?
Go well, Massimo, and thank you for having me back on the show. Hello Fabio, Alessandra, I hope you're well.
We are good.
Thanks, Archie.
Eurovision, yeah, interesting Eurovision. I mean, you know, it's had a long history, hasn't it, over the years, Eurovision, and some incredible acts have come out of there, and some incredible successes, and some not so big successes, but it's really a window, isn't it, into so many countries and the music that they're creating.
It's funny because, I mean, he gets criticized all the time for being like this, trashy, blah, 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 blah. But then in reality, if you go back in history, you see a lot of good artists coming out of that. You know, one person is Celine Dion.
I love Celine Dion.
Celine Dion, that's correct. I mean, that was probably one of the early stages promotional platforms that really sort of like catapulted her, and you know, she received big international exposure.
It's kind of funny because she is Canadian, but she won for Switzerland, didn't she?
In 1988, Ne partez pas sans moi.
That's correct, yes, because she sung in French, I believe,
Yeah,
didn't
well,
she?
she's
So
from Quebec,
she's from the Quebec side of Canada. So yeah, which is interesting. So yeah, it kind of worked really well for her, that exposed her more across Europe.
But I knew that in some time ago, which I'm quite surprised actually, that Olivia Newton-John, I mean Sandy
Wow.
from Greece,
Yeah.
represented England, didn't
That's
she?
right, that's right. In the early 70s, that's before she made it big here in the UK. And again, because Olivia Newton-John really didn't make it globally that big until Grease, the soundtrack, came out. She'd had some successes here in the UK in the mid-70s, but really 77, 78 was the time that it really sort of catapulted her globally.
But she did only one record after Grease, I think, or was Physical with the Gibbs brother.
That's right,
Yeah.
yeah, she did that album. She did quite a few albums out after that.
Xanadu as well.
Xanadu as well,
Yeah.
which is produced by
The Electric Light
Jeff
Orchestra,
Lynne, ELO.
yeah.
He produced all of that. That was very successful. But I mean, going back to the early period before those successes, yeah, they used the platform of the Eurovision.
But she just seemed to forget. I mean, it's amazing
Present.
that they think. I mean, Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, but that was before.
did
she
you
was a
know,
big name.
Fabio and Alessandra, that she did?
Yes, we did.
It was in 1974.
Long live love.
But tell us more, guys.
Well, anyway, you know, she was.
Yeah, that's great.
And you went there in Dublin, didn't you guys?
Yes, we did. A great experience. Really amazing.
Really, really amazing.
You know, when Katrina and the Waves won, you only arrived fourth.
We are very lucky.
You remember that? Fiumi di parole? No, you don't. Rivers
No,
of
I remember
words.
that
They
one.
were in Dublin, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. I mean, I've met Katrina Way. She's lovely. She's got an incredible voice, and you know, but unfortunately, it's just that one song, wasn't it? People know her for. But I mean, you know, she does a lot of the festival circuits now across the UK.
I tell you gossip. I don't know if it's a gossip, but apparently it's a true story. You know, when our friends down in Italy, the Jalisse, Fabio, Alessandra, went there, they were apparently winning, and then raised it, right television, basically the state Italian television, said no, we can't afford to have the show next year. So somehow they rigged the whole thing, and Katrina and the Waves won.
Really?
Well, it's been
That's
reported
incredible.
by this journalist. Now, let's take it as it is. But, you know, I'm sure Fabio and Alessandro do not need that to boost their revenue.
Not at all, not at all. I mean, like any industry, there's always shenanigans going on behind the scenes on some level, and music, film, and TV is probably.
But it goes very much with Italy, doesn't it? Mafia, Mandolino,
Berlusconi.
Yes, the usual Italian stereotype.
Anyway, let's concentrate on the Eurovision Song Contest. Who else Oh.
Yeah, I mean, there's been incredibly huge big names over the years. Obviously, from a UK perspective, we've got who else on there? We had
Sandy Shaw.
Sandy Shaw, yeah. Sandy Shaw was a Lulu, another huge big star here in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Lulu's got a career spanning 5-6 decades. I mean, you know, incredible performer. Sandy Shaw, who's now a therapist.
Oh.
She sings now and again at charity functions, things like that, but she doesn't really do.
Did she still do it bare feet?
She still does bare feet. I went to, I was very fortunate enough to be invited a couple of years ago to a Mark Bolan tribute and celebrating the anniversary of his death in London in Shepherd's Bush. And Sandy Shaw performed there. She came on stage with no shoes on, which is her trait. And her voice was absolutely incredible.
Well, she's got a great voice.
She's got a beautiful voice, and it's absolutely incredible. So,
she just made a dame or something.
Is that so? Okay, yeah. I wasn't aware of that. Yeah, so it's
OB. I don't know. You can tell me what is the difference.
Yeah, what is OBE? Order of the British Empire.
Yeah.
And MBE is member of the British Empire.
She's MB, the British Empire.
I don't know, you're British.
I don't know, I'm guessing.
Anyway, she's got
something. So, so it's from that. And then there's been some other really wonderful, I'm just going back sort of across to the 70s and 80s. You had, of course, Brotherhood of Man, that was very, very big in the 70s.
Right.
Here, that's some very big hits. And, there's been...
Well, we had Lara Fabian she participated with Luxembourg, and then
she's an incredible
she's got a
singer.
great voice.
Unbelievable. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to see Lara Fabian in concert.
We adore Lara.
It was 1998 with Croire and arrived fourth.
Incredible. I saw her in Cannes when I was working there for a music event, and she performed it totally. I mean, she's a real true professional in terms of live music.
You know that the
entertainment.
biggest hit, actually, beyond what we will be talking about later, was Volare from Domenico Modugno.
Ah, okay.
Because it's been repeatedly sung by Sinatra, Elvis, and he didn't win the Eurovision Song Contest, but the music made it big.
So who's the original singer-composer of that?
Domenico Modugno, the Italian guy.
And what year was that?
We have to check on that.
Was that 30s and 40s earlier?
It was, I think, 58.
Yeah, because that's a classic song, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Everyone,
he presented there.
You hear it in a lot of films now, don't you, as well, which is really...
Well, it's been reprised also by the Gypsy King and all that.
The Gypsy Kings, more modern version of it,
No, it's Italian. Maybe Alessandra and Fabio can help us on that. Do you guys?
Of course. It was 1958 in Holland and arrived third.
Anyways, let's move on. And who else do we have? Oh, wow. Can we ever forget ABBA?
Hey, I mean, you know, if you're looking at success stories...
Waterloo!
Absolutely. If you're looking at success stories, they really epitomise the word of success, don't they? And you know, the group that has done the best out of all of them, I think, in terms of, you know, for what it was.
So we had some few crazies, don't we? You know, we had Dana International, the first transgender who won.
I'll tell you a bit of gossip about Dana International.
Oh, tell us.
Many years ago, I was on a business trip to Israel, and she'd just won the Eurovision. So this was the year after she won the Eurovision. I was on a business trip to Israel with this company I work for, and we met her in Israel, and we went out for dinner. And then she took us around the clubs afterwards. You know, it's too early to go home yet. Let's go out some more drinks, went around the clubs. And she was really lovely, really, really lovely. And it was a fun evening, etc. with it. And then I came back to London, and then I heard this story about her. And you know, and it was such a shame because she was signed to, I think it was Helicon Records in Israel, who was licensed in Sony Music, I believe, at the time. And there was a deal set up where that was licensed from Helicon Records. I believe it was Helicon, I might be incorrect on that, Helicon Records to Sony. But Sony took so long in the negotiations from when she won the Eurovision as a contender that the bubble just burst. The gap had gone where they needed to really, you know, capitalise on her exposure and the media attention she had and the live dates and shows and recording stuff. It was so delayed after that she won that the distribution of the song when it came out here and then the album, it was lost. And it was a shame because there was a lot of potential there with her. Yeah, some might say it was a
But
novelty.
saying that, I mean, I don't know, because we will need to talk with somebody else that works at Sony in order to see why it happens. But I mean, if we check Conchita Wurst, for instance, I mean, it was just like a big things about having this female with the beard, and then also she didn't really.
Yeah, but it's interesting you mentioned her, and again also talked about Dana International, because I think the Eurovision also emulates controversy and political and social awareness of the time of what's going on. I mean, there's a strong, not just the music, but there's a strong message out there with the visual imagery as well, and how these artists project themselves and what they're saying to the world and where they come from and their journeys and everything. And I think, particular with Dana International, who was transgender, and then we're looking at Conchita Wurst. It's quite interesting, fascinating to see how, you can really use the power of song to send across so many messages across the world in terms of the exposure that Eurovision gives.
So what do you think Conchita Wurst's message was?
Conchita Wurst, interesting. Well, Conchita Wurst, I think, was that whole
the beard, acceptance.
Equality. I think there's elements of that there, and
I don't know, but I mean, I wasn't a particular fan of her. I think it was very trashy.
It was a very sort of dramatic Bond, Shirley Bassey type of song, and I could have heard that on a Bond soundtrack, and it had probably done really well. But I mean, the question is, you ask yourself after Eurovision, is what happens to these acts afterwards? They have this bubble of spotlight, which is absolutely fantastic and wonderful. And then if there's not a proper planning process and a strategic plan set in place post the Eurovision, then they can just disperse to the wayside. And that's what happens to a lot of these acts. So
well, it didn't happen with ABBA.
It didn't happen with ABBA. No,
but Celine Dion made it big. Laura Fabian as well.
But the reason it didn't happen with ABBA is because ABBA was a live band, and at the time when the incredible songwriting as well of Benny and Bjorn, but also, it was just totally different. One beautiful blonde girl, one beautiful girl with dark hair. Two wonderful songwriters, composers-songwriters. Amazing voices, amazing songs, timeless classic songs that everyone loved. Tell me who doesn't like one ABBA song. There must be one that somebody likes.
But also I think that they were clever in marketing that, because with Mamma Mia, they had like a kind of revival. They went across generations because they've been really clever to cut across generation. Now apparently there's Mamma Mia 2 coming out, the new film.
Yeah.
Whether it's Cher for being the grandmother of...
Now they have just announced a reunion after 35 years.
That's right.
It's unbelievable.
But that all these byproducts of the songs, everything, it comes from how good the song is, the quality of the song, and what it's all about. And 100 years from now, will they still be producing more stuff related to ABBA and Mamma Mia and all those other wonderful songs?
What I have to say though, last year performance of Salvador Sobral was absolutely amazing. I love that song. I thought it was great. There was that bossa nova Brazilian things. I mean, it was absolutely. Even though at the beginning I was supporting Francesco Gabbani with Oggi Dentales Karma, but when I heard that song, I thought it cannot be unnoticed.
Yeah.
We should actually say hello to him because he hasn't been well. He had the heart transplant after that, and he's recovering and working on his new album. So
fantastic.
We should be looking forward to see him in the next edition, don't we?
Absolutely. I mean, that was incredible. That was an incredible song, and the whole imagery and visuals from that.
And he played with his sister, and no, it was amazing. I really love that piece, and I think he really deserved it. And we are glad that we will be going to Portugal, Lisbon, calling soon.
Absolutely.
Alessandro and Fabio. So that's all for today.
Thank you very much.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you guys, and we talk again soon.
We also want to wish the best to Salvador Sobral.
To him and all of you here is our Eurovision song.
Fiumi di parole per voi.
Ciao a tutti!
Mi aspetto mille scuse come sempre da te. Sei un fiume di parole dove anneghi anche me. Che bravo che sei, ma questo linguaggio da talk show cosa c'entra con noi? Provo l'unico rimedio che adotto da un po'. La mia testa chiude l'audio, la storia la so. Sei fatto così, dovrei limitarmi oramai a dirti di sì. Fiumi di parole tra noi, prima o poi ci portano via. Ti darò il mio cuore, ti darò il mio cuore se vuoi, se puoi. Ora parla con lui, ora parla con lui. Tu che gridi in un dialetto che non è più il mio, io che perdo il tuo rispetto, sarebbe meglio un addio. È come in un film, il classico film dove lei farà la pazzia. Fiumi di parole tra noi, prima o poi ci portano via. Ti darò il mio cuore, ti darò il mio cuore se vuoi, se vuoi. Ora parla con lui. Vorrei fermare l'immagine, sentirla entrare dentro di me. Un tuo silenzio più complice vorrei. Fiumi di parole tra noi, prima o poi ci portano via. Ti darò il mio cuore, ti darò il mio cuore se vuoi, se puoi. Ora parla con lui. Fiumi di parole tra noi, prima o poi ci portano via. Ti darò il mio cuore, ti darò il mio cuore se vuoi, se puoi. Ora parla con lui, ora parla con lui. Ti darò il mio cuore, ti darò il mio cuore se vuoi, se vuoi. Ora parla con lui. Fiumi di parole.
London Calling, London Calling, London Calling, by Dante Maggi.
Localitour d'autore.